The carelessness of Jonathan and the foolish vow of King Saul. King Saul, during the height of the battle, pronounced a vow, a curse, forbidding the soldiers from eating anything until he had avenged himself upon his enemies. "Cursed be the man who eats any food before evening comes, before I have avenged myself on my enemies." This vow was personal and selfish, avenge myself, demonstrating reliance on personal effort rather than complete trust in God, and placed an unnecessary burden on the soldiers. The vow caused the entire army to be in a state of exhaustion and faintness as they had to fight all day without sustenance. Jonathan, who had led the initial attack and was at the forefront of the battle, was completely unaware of his father's forbidden vow. While passing through a forest where honey was dripping onto the ground, Jonathan dipped the tip of his staff and tasted a little honey. His strength was immediately restored, his eyes brightened, proving that honey was necessary to sustain fighting strength. A soldier informed Jonathan of the king's vow, explaining why the troops were faint. Jonathan immediately recognized the folly and harm of the vow. "My father has brought great trouble on the land. How much better it would have been if the men had eaten today some of the spoil taken from their enemies. Then the slaughter of the Philistines would have been even greater." Jonathan pointed out that the ban on eating had hindered a complete victory by weakening the soldiers' strength and morale, making them unable to effectively pursue the Philistines. The sin of eating meat with blood, due to extreme hunger from fasting all day by the king's command, when the fighting ended in the evening, the soldiers rushed in to seize and slaughter sheep and cattle, and then ate the meat with the blood still in it. This act was a serious violation of God's law, which forbids eating blood because blood represents life. Saul's foolish vow had indirectly led the people to commit a greater sin. Saul had to hastily build a temporary altar, his first recorded altar, so the soldiers could slaughter and cook the meat according to the law, to prevent the continuation of the sin. When Saul asked God about continuing the pursuit of the Philistines but received no answer, he concluded that there was sin among the people or in his own household. He swore that the guilty party must die. After casting lots to find the guilty one, the results successively cleared the people and left only Saul and Jonathan. When the lot was cast again, Jonathan was taken. Jonathan honestly confessed, "I only tasted a little honey with the tip of the staff that was in my hand. Here I am, I will die." Saul, bound by his vow of honor, pronounced the death sentence. "May God do so to me and more also. You shall surely die, Jonathan." The people rose up against the king's decision, because Jonathan was the one who had brought about this great victory for Israel. They said, "Shall Jonathan die, who has brought about this great deliverance in Israel?" Never. They affirmed that Jonathan had worked with God this day, implying that his action was accepted and blessed by God, in contrast to Saul's foolish vow. The people ransomed Jonathan, perhaps by a sin offering or by absolute intervention, and he was saved from death resulting from his father's rash vow. The intervention of the people overrode the absolute authority of the king when the king acted erroneously. The grave consequences and the intervention of the people. King Saul's rash vow led to a dual disastrous consequence. It promoted sin among the people and endangered the life of the innocent hero, Jonathan. The extreme hunger resulting from the vow to abstain from food led to a serious transgression. When night fell, the Israelite soldiers, being excessively hungry, rushed to seize sheep, cattle, and other spoils, and ate the meat with the blood still in it. This act was a serious violation of God's law forbidding the consumption of blood, as blood symbolizes life. Recognizing the major sin among the people, Saul hastily erected an altar, his first recorded altar, so the people could properly slaughter and cleanse the meat, in order to stop the sin. After the sin of eating meat with blood was addressed, Saul attempted to continue the pursuit of the Philistines but was met with silence from God. He did not answer when Saul inquired. indicating that sin still remained. Saul pronounced another oath, affirming he would kill the guilty party, whoever it might be, even his own son. Saul used the method of casting lots, possibly the Urim and Thummim, to seek out the guilty one. The lot indicated Jonathan. When questioned by his father, Jonathan honestly confessed that he had tasted a little honey. "I only tasted a little honey with the tip of the staff that was in my hand. Here I am, I will die." Saul, bound by his impulsive oath and his rigidity, pronounced the death sentence upon Jonathan. "You shall surely die, Jonathan." The intervention of the people was the key moment, saving the life of the innocent hero and showing opposition to the king's folly. The people publicly and emphatically protested Saul's execution order. They spoke up to defend Jonathan, who had led them to a great victory. They affirmed that Jonathan has worked this great deliverance in Israel, and his action was carried out with God this day, implying that his action was accepted and blessed by God, in contrast to Saul's foolish vow. The people swore an oath, a stronger oath to counteract Saul's vow, that not one hair of his head shall fall to the ground. The people ransomed Jonathan, saving him from an undeserved death. This confirms that at times, the authority of the leader must be constrained by the voice of the people when the leader acts unreasonably and endangers the innocent. The core lessons from the story of Jonathan and the honey. This story is not merely a historical event, but a profound study of leadership ethics, law, and the intervention of the populace. King Saul's oath, "Until I have taken vengeance on my enemies," is a clear demonstration of using power impulsively and selfishly for personal honor rather than for strategic benefit or the guidance of God. This oath weakened Saul's own army, hindering them from fully pursuing the Philistines, causing the victory to be incomplete. It led to a double disaster: first, exhausting the soldiers; second, indirectly forcing them into a serious sin when they ate meat with blood due to extreme hunger, a violation of God's law. The climax was the oath pushing an innocent hero, his own son Jonathan, to the brink of execution. Innocence in ignorance, the fault of the law. Jonathan was innocent because he was completely unaware of the prohibition. His act of eating honey was not disobedience, but a rational action to restore his strength after fighting, helping to maintain the army's combat capability. Jonathan's perspective: if only the men had been allowed to eat freely today, how much better it would have been, shows that he prioritized practical benefit and the result of victory over strict, meaningless adherence to a man-made rule. In the law of Moses, there was a clear distinction between sins committed unintentionally, attainable through sacrifice, and sins committed intentionally, defiantly, requiring exclusion. Jonathan fell into the unintentional category, so Saul's demand for his death was an excessive and unjust act, even according to the law of the time. The intervention of the people is the most important lesson about responsibility and power. When a leader, Saul, acts illogically, blindly, and threatens the innocent, the voice and action of the populace become necessary to restore justice. The people not only protected the king's son but also protected justice and reason. They affirmed that Jonathan's action was done with God, implying that God's will, bringing about victory, was more important than the king's personal oath. This intervention succeeded in overturning the death sentence and preventing Saul from making a terrible mistake. It established a precedent that the king's power is not absolute when it conflicts with what is right and the will of the nation. If you love this content, please help my channel grow by subscribing now. Thank you all very much.